It's a coup for the Peabody Essex Museum. This summer, the Salem Exhibition Hall is the only place in the United States where you can see more than 100 works by the British master J.M.W. Turner. He's known for his landscapes, but the Peabody Essex is making waves with an unusual show looking at Turner's lifelong fascination with water. The show just opened last weekend. WGBH News arts editor Jared Bowen has already seen it. Joins us to talk about that. So, fascination with water. So how did they end up focusing on water when really he's known for landscapes?
Well, I think that's precisely the reason. First of all, it's in Salem and it's right on the water, so it's a perfect summer show. And everybody knows Turner for his landscapes. But really, this was his fascination with water. I mean, being a British artist, being an island, close proximity to the water. You have to remember that this is a time he lived from the late 1700s and worked from the late 1700s to the mid 1800s. So this is also a nation, as we see here, that was always at war as well. So water was fundamental to the British culture, and this is something where, of course, a painter can excel. It's so difficult to paint water and to depict waves in the sea and to even get the sea foam, as he often does, and to have the depiction of light. And Peabody Essex, it really is. You said it was a coup, and that's absolutely right, because he's such a renowned artist. To get this many loans, this many Turner pieces, about 100 in one place, is astonishing.
So what do you learn about him when you're watching this exhibit? We know he was the painter of light. Does that kind of integrate itself into the water, too?
We absolutely see that. I mean, you look at these pieces and you marvel, because you also have the context of his friends, or not his friends, rather, but his competitors who are working at the same time. And I spoke to the curator, Daniel Finnemore, there, who talks about what you see when you look at Turner's paintings of water.
He looked at the sea as the most sort of elemental expression of nature, the unfettered kind of activity of the light, the reflections, the energy, no human modification, all of these things that are just expressions of nature at its most sublime, its most dangerous, its most beautiful.
Wow. So who were his competitors at the time?
Well, everybody, because he was a prodigy, and he came from this very lower class, not privileged background, but people identified him so early on as somebody who was an excellent painter. So he basically had everybody, these are some of his competitors here, who wanted to paint just as he did, because he was always at the advent, and he's somebody who could market himself. He often worked in watercolors so that he could have the widest distribution and dissemination of his works possible. So people would follow him, including these are some American painters, I believe, that we're looking at here as well. The Americans, when they would see his works that would come over in black and white to America, they'd seek out his pieces when they went to travel to Europe. People like Thomas Moran and James McNeill Whistler, they absolutely wanted to evoke everything that he was creating, because he was really working in the new.
All right, so this exhibit spans about 50 years of his life, and it's also watercolor and oils and...
well, basically, he worked in the new. He worked in the avant-garde, and I talked to Daniel Finnemore about that as well.
It's hard for us to appreciate just how avant-garde a lot of that was, how crazy people thought, and indefinable. They use the word indistinct over and over again. Now that we've been through the 20th century and all of these experimental movements in painting, it's easy to look back and see that Turner was experimenting with a lot of these ideas at a time when other values were embraced in painting.
Now, I always say water is the hardest thing to do, except rocks. Nobody's got rocks down.
It is difficult. And what I love about this show, Emily, what the Peabody Essex Museum always does so well, there are multiple stories told here. Who knew you would see somebody working in the 1700s go on to paint in the avant-garde that we would associate with the 20th century modern masters?
All right, looking forward to seeing that one. All right, Jared Bowen, thanks.